Hello, I am here to introduce my Realmathon vlog. So I'm going to start this off with the TBR because I didn't make a March TBR because I'm just kind of picking from the things I'm interested in. I have some reads that I need to finish and then some that I just want to get to, and I have like a whole bunch of options for Realmathon. So I am on the Stags team. So the two things that we're looking for our bonus prompts for our team are plants on the cover and non-human main character, and then urban setting counts for everyone. If you don't know what Realmathon is, it's hosted by Cassidy at Covers with Cassidy. It's a competitive readathon where you have 4 teams that are competing. You have this whole, like, you can either attack or defend with your books. Defense is like positive points for you. Attacking is taking away points from another team, and it's just a race throughout the month to try to read as many things as you can. And so I'm going to tell you what some of my options are. So the first two that I have are from a video which may or may not be out yet, which is my Buzzword Readathon, my first quarter books, and I have The Centaur's Wife and Well-Read Black Girl. I'm not going to tell you much about them now because you'll hear a lot about them in an upcoming vlog. I have some books that I'm currently reading. So, I'm currently reading The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This is for my in-person book club, and this bookmark hasn't been updated in a little bit because I'm currently listening to it on audiobook, and I'm about 70% of the way through, so I need to like update this if I read it physically. But I'm making my way through this one. I've been listening to this a lot because I'm trying to get through it. I go back and forth on how I'm feeling about this one. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I don't. I don't know if you can see, but the puppy's here. She heard me talking and decided she needed to come join. Yes. She's probably kind of hungry because it's getting near dinner time. And then I'm reading Acceptance, which is the third book in the Area X or Southern Reach series by Jeff Vandermeer. I'm like 40 pages into the final book. I'm really enjoying it. This is a book that years ago I tried listening to on audiobook and DNF'd it because I could not make sense of it. It makes so much more sense reading it. It just jumps around timelines and points of view too much for me to listen to it on audiobook and understand what's going on. So reading it physically, it's going so much better. I'm really enjoying it. And then next is this Shelf This Book Club. This month's book for March is Northwoods by Daniel Mason. So this follows a patch of land in New England in America over like years and years and years. I'm like 60 pages into it. I'm enjoying it with some caveats of it's reading a lot like connected short stories, which I really, really don't like most of the time, but the writing has been interesting, and I'm kind of holding out for their judgment because there are a lot of things that I am interested in, so I don't hate it. I think I'm leaning more towards the liking it than the disliking it at this point. So that's all I have that I'm reading. Now I'm going to show you what I'm hoping to read. So I have Beast by Matt Wesolowski. This is the 4th book in the 6-story series by him. It's just kind of like spooky kind of horror, usually following some sort of like myth or urban legend element. I really love this series and I think it's so fun. I'm so excited to be reading this. I never hear anyone else talking about this series, but I love it. It follows like a podcast format, which I think is very fun and very easy to read. Next, we have Susanna Clarke's The Wood at Midwinter. I picked this up because it's a tiny little short story that I want to read, and this will be good for the gala weekend where you get extra points per book that you read, so this will be a good one to toss on there. I may pick up The Storm Sister by Lucinda Riley. I'm trying to read lots and lots of sequels this year, finishing some series. This is the second book in the Seven Sisters series. I was okay on the first one. I could definitely see myself DNFing the series if I don't love this one, or at least like it enough to want to continue. The first book, The Seven Sisters is what it's called, was different than what I was thinking. Wasn't quite what I wanted. I was hoping for more mystical, magical, and what I got was like historical, and I didn't think the story was balanced. So the way that she kind of has set up this series is that you're following one of these seven sisters, and then you're learning about their past and where they came from because they're all adopted. The first book just didn't balance out the more modern story as well as it did the historical story. So it ended up being where I was really interested in the historical story, not as interested in the first story. And I just thought it was unbalanced. So I'm intrigued to see how the second book goes. If I finish Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer and love it, I'm going to read the final and newest book in the series, Absolution, and wrap up the Southern Reach series. I'm considering reading My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This is like a slasher horror, and I've heard it's very good. My friend gave me his copies to read after he read it, so I'm eager to get to it. I have the whole series, so if I love it, I can continue on quickly, and I'm very intrigued by Stephen Graham Jones. The Only Good Indians did not work for me. It was a little bit weird and violent for my tastes, which is interesting when I think about it, because the one that of his I did like, which was Night of the Mannequins, was also weird and violent, but it was much shorter, so maybe the fact that it was a novella worked for me better. But I've heard really good things about this one, and I'm excited to try it out. Another option I have is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I haven't read a romance in a while. I haven't read any Emily Henry, but this is one I found at a little free library a couple years ago, and I would like to try it out, see if I enjoy her work, and it'll be just nice to have a light, maybe, romance in the middle of this month of reading lots of other things. I want to start a big fantasy series for this year, and the one I'm thinking of reading is the Shattered Sand series by Bradley P. Bolio. This is the 12 Kings of Sherikai, and I think I will like this one. This is like desert fantasy. I don't know much about. When I first learned about this series, I read what it was about, and I was very intrigued. I don't know what it's about now. I have forgotten, and I'm just going to leave it at that. It's an epic fantasy series, 7 books long. I own the entire series. I'm interested to read it. I don't have the dust jacket for this one because I sort of started it and then haven't read any more in it. That's The Four Forges by Jenna Rhodes. This is a start to I think it's a quartet, a fantasy quartet about elves, which sounds really interesting. I don't know a lot about it. It's kind of a slightly older fantasies. I think it's like late 2000s, early 2010s, somewhere in there. And it sounds good. I only own this first book, but the rest of them are at my library, so I want to give this one a try. Another book I want to read is The Nightingale. I'm trying to read authors who I own multiple books by that I haven't tried before, and I own at least 2 of her books. Haven't tried any, but I've heard this is a great place to start. I've heard it's very sad, but I think it'll read kind of quickly. Historical usually reads pretty quickly for me, so I might read this one. Another sequel to a series that I have started is Daughter of Good Fortune by Isabel Allende. This is the first book in the series, The House of the Spirits, but it was published after The House of the Spirits, so this is like a prequel. So if you're reading it in like publication date, you would read The House of the Spirits first. So I read The House of the Spirits. I absolutely loved it. It was such a good story. I'm very eager to get to this one. I believe it's a prequel. So I don't know if this month is like the month to do it, but I've been wanting to read more Isabel Allende since I read The House of the Spirits, and I think this will be a really good one because it will be also working on that same series. The last book that I have is one that I actually need to start sooner rather than later, now that I think about it, because I only have it on a 2-week loan, and I'm sure someone out there has also requested it, and that's Blackwood's Blue Sky by Eowyn Ivey. I don't know anything about what this is about, except for maybe it's about Alaska again. I love The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and I'm really eager to try another one of her books. I didn't like her second book very much at all. It really did not work to me. It's like called To the Bright Edge of the World or something like that. So I'm hoping that this one works better for me, but if not, I just got it from the library. But I'm hoping she can kind of capture that magic that The Snow Child did. And I love the Alaska setting that she writes about. She writes about it very evocatively. And I'm very excited for this. And I should probably start this one today. But I need to go do some stuff. I think I'm going to take one of my books that I've already started. I'm in the middle of a section in Northwood, so maybe I'll just try to continue that section. And I'll check back in with you when there's something to say. It's already March 6th, and I have not done a lot of reading. I've been very distracted when it comes to reading, so I'm going to try to buckle down and really work on it. Check back in with you in a little while. Hello. Hi, I'm back with an update. I have finished 2 books. The first one being The Woman in White. I finished this yesterday morning. It was Saturday, and I enjoyed it. I think that all my thoughts about it being a little overly written, but still interesting in points, kind of holds up. I think it was a 3-star rating. I think in a lot of ways I would have rated it higher, but Wilkie Collins makes a lot of disparaging comments about foreigners and women, and that's really off-putting. So even though the plot in a lot of ways was good, clearly he had prejudices against people who were not from England and people who were not men. I think at one point he said women can't make logical decisions because they're too emotional, and how could we expect them to be logical at all? He said that they are basically just grown-up children, but they need the same leadership and guidance as children do. They're just bigger. He hated women, even though he wrote a very compelling female character in this story. Actually, a couple very compelling female characters. I don't know why he seemed to hate them so much. It was weird. So that was very off-putting. So I couldn't give it more than a 3 stars. And the 3 stars was just because the plot was very enjoyable at times. Then I listened to Well Read Black Girl. This is by Gloria Edom, and I listened to this very quickly. I started it Saturday afternoon, finished it early Sunday morning. It's a 5-hour audiobook, very fun to listen to, and I enjoyed this, so I just kind of sped through it. I'll be talking about this more in one of my other vlogs, so you'll be able to hear more about it, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't anything amazing, but it was a fun listen. Very easy. I think it took me 3.5 hours of listening time. Super easy to listen to. So these 2 books, I think this is 70 something points or 80 points. And then this was 38 points. So pretty decent. We did get an update from Cassidy this morning that the Stags are in last place. Wah wah. So everyone's kind of panicking, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? We gotta get out ahead of this, and I'm fine with it. Funnily enough, I've never won a competitive readathon, even though I've participated in so many. I've never been on the winning team, and I don't want to say that I'm a curse, but maybe. So I kind of expected at this point. But I'm just focusing on reading. I'm currently reading Blackwood's Blue Sky by Eowyn Ivey because I know this has holds on it and it will need to go back to the library. This is a brand new release. I might be the first person to read this book. I'm actually obsessed with it. We're in a very rural town in Alaska, and we're following this woman, Birdie, who has a young girl, Emmeline. And Birdie is kind of a mom who is trying to be a good mom, but not always being the best at it. And she is kind of drawn to the party scene and is not always being the best mom. She's trying to work, but she also has a kid. There's no daycare, like, you know, she's trying to make the best of it. And then we have another character who is it's kind of like a Selkie, but with a bear. So Selkies, that's like the myth of like women who have like a seal skin, like they are a seal, and then they take off their seal skins and they become like a woman and can like walk on the land. And it's like that, but with a bear. There's a guy who has like a bear skin that he can take on and off and be either a man or a bear. And I'm 50 pages through, and the writing is beautiful. I'm very attached to the characters already and their plight, and I don't know where the story is going to go because I did not read the description, because Eowyn Ivy is an auto-read author for me, so I like to give myself the treat of not really knowing what it's about when I start it. But I'm actually obsessed with this right now. I'm enjoying it so much. And I'm so happy because her second book, To the Bright Edge of the World, did not work for me, which was really disappointing because The Snow Child, her debut novel, was so good. I remember like the time and place when I was just like reading through it. I remember like feeling so many emotions. It's one of those books I feel like I have a hard time wanting to go back and reread because I still remember everything so vividly. So it's so nice to feel like I'm back with Eowyn Ivy in another one of her stories. One of the things that I love most about her is that she grounds you in time and space so well. Like, you read this and you just know exactly the type of town and exactly the type of people that are here and what it's like and what it looks like, and you can feel both the vastness of the wilderness but also the claustrophobia of being like a young mom who's not sure that she wants to be a mom. And it's so good. I'm hoping it stays this great all the way through. I'm enjoying it so much. It's not very long. It's just over 300 pages. So I'm going to try to get to maybe 100, 150 pages in today. And then, you know, maybe tomorrow I could like finish it off if I can read that far. It reads pretty quickly though. So I'm loving it. This is my obsession right now. Another book that I've made a little progress on since I updated you is Northwoods by Daniel Mason. I got to the very start of section 4. It's about 100 pages in, and section 3, oh my gosh. I was hating the first part of section 3. I was like, I don't know why we're following these sisters. I don't like them. It kind of felt like we were retracing something we'd already talked about. And then, sure enough, I got hooked into that section, and oh my gosh, the ending. There was a section I had to read like 3 times because I was like, that didn't happen. I must be reading it wrong. Something else happened. No, that didn't happen, right? Something else happened, and I kept rereading it, but sure enough, that did happen, and it was intense. So I'm very much enjoying this, and I'm enjoying people kind of chiming in with their responses as well in the Discord as we read it together. And I'm just really happy I decided to pick this one up. So that's kind of all I have to update you with. I'm going to go work on reading this for the afternoon and see how far I can get into it. Because we got to get those points. And this one, this will be worth a lot of points. It's going to have a non-human main character, plants on the cover. It's over 300 pages. So I think this will easily get like a good 30, maybe 40 points. And it's going to be a quick to read. So I'm hoping that I can read to this. And since I'm done with the audiobook for Well Read Black Girl, I'm going to be reading Winter by Marissa Meyer, which all the books in that series have been absolute fly through audiobooks for me. And that's a 500-page chunker with non-human main characters, plant on the cover, like urban setting. That's going to be a heavy hitter. So I'm going to be really focusing on listening to that. So I'm excited for the next few days, and I'll just keep updating you when I have some more thoughts. Hello! I have quite a few updates for you. So I am filming this right after the update, the final wrap up update for my 48-hour reading vlog. This is the night before I head out to the coast. It's also the night that the gala starts for Realmathon, where you get an extra 10 points for each book you read. And I don't know that I'm going to be participating. There's a chance I would read one thing tonight, maybe before I go pick my brother up from the airport. So if you want to know the reviews of all the graphic novels and short things that I read, go watch that. That was a very fun 48 hours. I read a lot more than I thought I would, so it was really fun. And then I wanted to update you on what I'm currently reading. So I am now in this bind up, I have about 100 pages left of Acceptance. So I'm nearing the end. I will say it is losing me quite a bit. We just had a whole section that I thought was going to be really revealing and eye-opening about what's going on. And I just feel I was so confused. And the characters are acting like they got told something really important. And I'm I don't get what was such a big deal about that. I don't understand the importance of what I just read. So I'm finding myself a little frustrated because I'm so interested in this world. I just feel sometimes it's better to just be a little bit more obvious when you have such a weird world and a strange writing style. Just, if you're going to give us something big, just tell us a little more clearly so that we can actually understand what the characters are feeling and thinking a little bit more, because I feel I'm not understanding that right now. So I'm going to try to keep reading. It would be kind of nice if I could finish that tonight. That would be nice because I'm headed out to the coast to celebrate my sister's engagement, and it would be really nice to be able to finish that book and then just bring Northwoods along. I don't know that I'll get much reading done. This would be a just in case I read. It would be kind of nice to power through and finish this. So maybe I will really try to focus on that and try to get it done. It would also be nice just to submit it and get it done. But the gala does start in about a half hour. So I was well, if I got a graphic novel or something from the library that I could speed through, I could submit it for the extra points. But then I'm I don't know if I want to just be reading things just because they're for points when I could be reading the things that are on my TBR, getting to other things on my TBR, because I have such a big TBR this month and I'm not through as many books as I want right now. So it might be better just to focus on that and not worry so much about the gala points, even though I'm competitive and I want to win and I don't want the Stags to be in last place anymore. So I'm not sure about that, but I will say I had a huge book that I finished because I finished Winter by Marissa Myers. This is the last book in the Lunar Chronicles. Well, it's a short story collection that comes after and has stories from different times in the series called Stars Above. I'm reading this for the Throwback Book Club by Lizzie at Lizzie's Literary Life and Danielle at Danielle Reads, and I had an okay time with Winter. I liked the beginning. I liked the end. However, I think this book really felt its length. It's 827 pages. And there were many, many, many times where I felt like the characters like didn't get anywhere, and it felt like the author was just dragging things out, and I couldn't understand like the importance behind all these things happening, and it felt kind of frustrating because it would be like, okay, this character gets a little hurt and then they're fine, but I spent 100 pages being worried about them, but it turns out that they're still fine. This might be like a mini spoiler, so if you're really worried about being a tiny bit spoiled for winter, you might want to skip just like a minute ahead. But like no characters died. Like the biggest consequence that we had was that Wolf gets like transformed, but I don't feel like we know enough about it to really know like how that would affect him, other than he's been made like uglier, like not human, and it didn't make sense why they couldn't try to change him back. Like I felt like Marissa Meyer was like, we need to have consequences, and Wolf has always been like the punching bag of the series, I feel like, where like everything terrible seems to happen to him. More like actual lasting consequences happen to him, whereas they don't happen to other characters as much. So that felt frustrating. Spoilers are over now. So I thought this was okay. I didn't feel like the ending had like the big emotional impact I would have wanted from the ending. I thought the revolution felt a little too easy and a little too simplistic in a very like YA way, which isn't bad because it is YA. So it's like, I get that like I'm not necessarily the target audience for this, and maybe I would want a more sophisticated, complicated revolution. Whereas a young adult reader, this might be like complicated enough for them, even though I think that they could definitely probably like handle more. I'm not really sure about the overall themes of like beauty and looks, and if Marissa Meyer actually said anything about them that was interesting. I don't know. Lavana was just always kind of obsessed with her looks, and she was afraid of people seeing her for who she was for real, but I don't feel like Marissa ever did anything with that. So it was kind of a mixed bag. I ended on like a 3.5 because I think I enjoyed it overall. I just think that like for a finale, I thought it felt too dragged out, and it didn't quite have like the emotional, like hard won impact I would have wanted. And yeah. So I'm currently listening to Stars Above. I am not very hopeful that I will like this short story novella collection. I just don't know that there's enough in this world that like I really want to explore further. Even though I find the world interesting, I'm just not like a fan of like going, like the first story is going back and seeing like Scarlett's grandma, and I don't care that much about Scarlett's grandma. Like I care about the stuff in the story that was talked about, and I don't feel like we need 370 more pages of content to fill in these gaps that aren't really there. But it'll be an easy listen. It's going to be like 9 hours. So I'll be able to listen to it fine. I can listen to this at like 1.75 speed. And so I'll just, listen to it here and there throughout the next, 3 to 4 days maybe. And, it'll be fine. It'll be what it is. But I'm not overly excited or anticipating like a revolutionary addition to the series. I usually don't love short stories set in bigger worlds, with very few exceptions. Very, very few exceptions. Even like the Dresden Files, which I generally really like, I don't love the short stories, and I tend to just I listen to them once and I'll never go back to them again because they're not that great. I just don't really care for them that much. I'd rather listen to like the full novels. So I'm listening to that. Gonna work on acceptance, And then for the rest of this weekend, if I have time, I'll read North Woods, because I'm still on part 4 is where I left off. So only like 100 pages in. So I still have like 200 pages left to read in this. And then this is the last book then that I will currently be reading physically, which will be nice. I've kind of brought things down. And then I really want to read The Centaur's Wife, because that's one that's been on my TBR for longer than I've wanted it to be, because I was really excited about it when I first got it. So I want to prioritize reading that one this month, and it's really good points for Realmathon as well. So, this is my check-in, and I'll check back in with you probably after the weekend and everything when I have more things to say. Hello, I'm back quite a few days later with an update on quite a few things that I have read. So, I have finished Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. I gave it 2 stars in the end because even though it started out very strong, there's too much within it that doesn't make sense to me. After getting to the end, I'm like, I don't have any idea what Area X is. I mean, there's some ideas that I have about it, but there's nothing like clear. I don't know what happened to the characters in the story. Stuff happened to them, but I didn't understand what was actually happening to them, which was frustrating. I just really struggled to read. Like, the last 60 pages took me almost like 3 days. I was almost actively avoiding it because I wasn't enjoying it. So, because I gave this such a low rating, I had looked up some reviews for Absolution because I wasn't sure what I was getting with this novel. And what I've read is that the information in this novel coincides with the timelines, I think, of this. And from what I could gain from the reviews, the people that didn't like it were like, it's too vague, it's too confusing, it doesn't give us answers. The people that did like it were like, oh my gosh, I loved all 3 of the original novels. I love the weirdness, I love the vagueness, and they ate this up. This is like 400 pages, and I just think that Jeff Vandermeer is doing too much weirdness for me to truly get something out of it when I read this, which is sad because Annihilation, the first book in the series, is magnificent. I love every second of it. His book that he wrote after this trilogy, Born, is very weird, but so much more concrete in what is actually happening and so much more enjoyable because of it. I just can't make sense of what's happening in here, so I'm not sure what's happening when I'm reading it. And so I don't think I want to slog through 400 more pages to not get much more info. I'm probably going to read a summary about this to see if I can glean anything from here that helps me understand this, because I just don't think I have the interest to read it since it was so hard to get through the end of this one. I think that probably means, as much as I love Jeff Vandermeer, I think I only love him sometimes. Like, some of his novels work, some don't, and sometimes I just need to be okay with that, because the 2 books that I read by him first are my 2 favorite by a landslide. And so I think it's hard for me because I feel like I'm demoting him a little bit by saying, like, I only like some of his works. But I think that's more realistic than saying, like, he's my favorite author of all time. I love everything he reads. It's like, when he hits, it hits for me. But when he misses, it's a big miss. So I'm going to send this back to the library and just be okay with maybe not reading it. I could get it later if I really wanted to. Then I've been focusing mostly on North Woods by Daniel Mason. I have been making fabulous progress with this. I'm on page 235 out of like 370. So I have 140 130 pages to go, and I've been able to kind of easily read like 100 pages a day. So I'm going to read some more tonight and then maybe try to finish it off tomorrow potentially, but I'm really enjoying this. This is also weird, but in a much more concrete way, and it's written in a structure like no other novel I've read before, which has been really interesting. And since I'm reading this for the Shelf This Book Club, I'm enjoying kind of, as I read, seeing other people's reactions to it has been really fun. So I'm glad I gave this one a shot and didn't just pass on it before I started it. So I will continue that tomorrow. I had started this during my shorties vlog. I've not made any progress with this. This is just on standby for when I want something small, short, easy to read. But this is kind of short stories as well. They're kind of interconnected vignettes. So I don't really need other short stories right now. Then I've tried 2 different audiobooks because I did finish Winter and finish Stars Above. And I will say that Stars Above did not do it for me. I really struggled to care about most of the stories. There were a couple that I liked, but most of them were prequel stories. Only one, I think, happened post-Winter timeline, and that would have been the timeline I was most interested in. So I don't know. It just felt like 360 pages of filler to me a little bit. Like, there was one story that was all about a scene from Cinder, but from another character's perspective, but so much of the scene was recycled from the original scene. So I was like, we're not getting a ton from this. We're just getting to see the guy's perspective and what he thinks, but it's so slightly different that it really was not worth all the time that we spent on it. Like, I could have insinuated that that's what he was thinking based on his actions and the things he says and what happens as the series goes on. Like, it revealed nothing new to me. So I can see how people who just like are obsessed with the series, obsessed with the world, want to read that, but it didn't work for me. I think I gave it like a 2 stars just because it wasn't terrible, but like I also didn't care, and I kind of found myself like speeding it up fast to listen to it faster. So that one was rough, and then I've had a string of DNFs since then on audiobooks. The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles. I think that I'm not a huge fan of his writing style. This is a historical fiction book set around this young man who like gets out of jail and is trying to make a life with him and his younger brother, and he kind of gets wrapped up with these other guys who escaped from jail. And I wanted to like it, and I was having a really good time with the audiobook for a little while, but then I realized that it was too much of like a travel a little bit and then this happens, travel a little bit and then this happens, and a little bit hijinks filled, which wasn't my favorite. So it felt kind of humorous at times, but it also felt very serious at times, and I struggled with understanding why some of the perspectives that we had, why we were following them. I would struggle with keeping track of whose perspective we were following when I was listening. So, I don't know. I got like almost 40% of the way through before I was like, I think this isn't the kind of book I want to read. I think it feels very literary fiction, but in a bad way. Like, this is literary fiction, but I'm really enjoying it. It's experimental, a little weird, doing some unexpected things. This didn't feel like it was doing anything super unexpected. I did like the writing style a bit, but then there were times where I was like, I feel like you, the author, think you're being really clever in what you're saying. Like, the author, I feel like, was peeking through to be like, oh, look at this connection. Like, isn't that cool? And so it would just kind of rub me the wrong way a little bit. So, like, the writing style was okay, and I thought it was a great audiobook. So maybe you'll like this more than I do. Literary fiction is not my jam. I tend to be a genre fiction girly myself, but occasionally I like some literary fiction, but this one I think just wasn't it. I had picked this up at a little free library, as I do with a lot of books, and was like, sure, let me try it sometime. And it just didn't work for me. I think I'm also going to get rid of The Gentleman in Moscow by him, because after reading this, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to like A Gentleman in Moscow. At least I've lost interest in it currently. So I think I'm going to pass on that one as well. And then I wanted to try one of the series I've been wanting to try for a really long time. Elizabeth George's Inspector Lynley series. This is the first book, A Great Deliverance, and I hated this. I listened to 6%, was not very far, and I could already tell that this is extremely dated. The way that it talks about women, the way that it talks about appearances, very, very dated. It was written in the late 80s, so that, you know, it holds up. I can see where it is dated. I had wanted to read this for a long time because I really am looking for a new detective series that I could love, and this one is like, I think still ongoing. It has like 20 books, so I was like, oh my gosh, if I love it, I can really like sink down into it and just enjoy it, because so many other ones haven't worked for me, and this one just did not work. I wish. I've collected like 8 or 9 of the novels like later in this series. I found at like little free libraries, library book sales. I found them like super cheap, so it's not like I spent a lot of money on them. Maybe like $8 to $15 in total on all like 9 or 10 that I've acquired. So not very many, but I could tell so quickly that this was not something that I wanted to do. Like, literally, it talks about Inspector Lynley being like this earl who's this rich guy that no one likes because they assume he like bought his position as an inspector, and this woman who has like worked with every person and she's terrible to work with, and so they decide that they're gonna put her with Lynley because Lynley tries to sleep with everyone he works with. And so they're like, well, we'll put Lynley with Havers because she's like terrible. She's like ugly. She like doesn't wear makeup. She like has a bad attitude. So we'll just put them together. And it was, it kind of sounds like a fun idea of like this womanizer is what they're setting him up to be, and this really unattractive woman. We'll put them together. But the way it talked about Barbara Havers was like terrible. Like, I was like, I hate listening to this. It was very much like, if you don't wear bright lipstick to make your smile prettier, you're not a real woman. It was so like condescending and gross and stereotypical and chauvinistic, and it just felt terrible. And I was like, I definitely do not want to read 20 books set in Elizabeth George's world that she set up, because I hate everything that's happening about these characters right now. So I passed on that, and I'm probably gonna need to look for an audiobook that I could listen to. I do have a few days left. I think I have like 10 days on a book called Bowling Alone, which I've wanted to read. It's all about like American individualism and how that like harms us. And it's a nonfiction book, but it's a little bit long. But I don't know, I've been able to listen to audiobooks on pretty like high speeds recently. I've been doing like 1.75, which sometimes I do like 1.25. So I don't know, like, if I've been slowly training my brain to read a little faster, or if the narrators have just been a little slow. I'm not sure. So I might try to start that one because that's one that I have out right now. Maybe something else. I'll update you later with what I decide to do. But so I'm going to focus on this, and then when I'm done with this, I think I need to pick up one of these 3 books. And I'm not sure which one I'm going to do yet. Maybe I'll just start all of them and see which one sticks it out. I need to read this one for another vlog, though, that I think is coming out next week. So maybe you'll have seen it before this video comes out, but I think I need to read this one for that vlog. So maybe I'll start this one first. But then this is for the March selection for the Literally Dead book club. I never get to them on time. I don't know why. Maybe it's just when they read the new books, I never seem to get to them on time. But this is about like an author who like hosts like a getaway, and it's written in like an interesting format sometimes. There's like interviews, stuff like that. And I love books about authors a lot of times. So I'm hoping I will really like this one. So I do want to read it, and there's probably holds on it, so I don't know how long I actually have this out for. It may need to go back to library before I can get to it. And then I still want to read this one. This is one of my continuations for a series. It's very short. It's 230 pages. I could fly through this in a couple sittings probably, so this is another option. Maybe what I'll do is check when this goes back, see if I actually have a prayer to read it in time. And maybe I'll just focus on these 2. That might be better because I'm not going to make it for the live show for this one anyway, so I may as well just like put on my watch later playlist and get to it later. That's probably a wise idea. Hello, pajama update. I am freshly showered and getting ready to settle in for the evening of reading, and I wanted to update you before I did that. I have finished North Woods by Daniel Mason, and I loved it. I feel like this is like a 4 or 4.5 stars. I'm not really sure how I feel because it is kind of interconnected short stories, but they are very interconnected, and the last 2 sections, like chapter 12 and then the succession section at the end, were so beautiful and bittersweet, and it kind of wrapped up the whole book and was like, this is what you're supposed to get from it. And it really gave like this really powerful message about land and how, I don't know, we think we own land, right? I've bought this house and this yard, it's mine. But we are such a small part of the land's life, and it's going to pass through many, many hands, and has passed through many, many hands before. And it was just so beautiful to read about, and kind of really sad at times. Ruby was talking about trees that have been lost due to different things like blight and things like that we've lost in our history. And the catamounts, or mountain lions as I call them here in the Pacific Northwest, how they are not in that area. And it was just so interesting. And it's been really interesting because as I was reading this, I was rewatching season 4 of Outlander, and there's a lot of discussion in that book. If you don't know about Outlander, it's like a time travel romance where Claire goes back in time and she like knows modern history but is like living through older history in like the 1700s. And it's interesting because she brings this interesting perspective of like she knows where countries and history are going to be in 200 years. And it's just interesting how her relationship kind of changes to the land, because it's like she just sees like a bigger picture of it. And that was what was really interesting here, is that you're getting to see the bigger picture of this one piece of land, how many hands kind of imprint on it, how nature changes through time. And it was just so fascinating. I cannot wait for the live show for this. I think it's going to be super interesting to hear everyone's thoughts because it was weird and it was wacky and it was heartwarming and bittersweet and sad, all wrapped up into one beautiful little book. So if you have not read this and any of that sounds interesting to you, please go read it. I would highly recommend. And I thank Ruby at Ruby Red for picking it and making us all read it, because that was not a book that was on my radar to read at all. And then I started The Centaur's Wife. I got 14 pages in, and I'm loving it. I think this is so weird and mystical and magical and interesting, all wrapped up into one. And I have no idea where it's going to go. And I feel like it's off to such a banger start that I really have high hopes about it. And it's good because it's kind of been sitting on my shelves. And I think part of me has been scared to pick it up because I have such high expectations for it, because the description just really spoke to me. So what we've gotten so far in the first 15 pages is that there's a woman who falls in love with a man who she doesn't know is a centaur. Something happens. They get separated. Years later, there are meteors falling from the sky in like an apocalypse situation. And the writing is beautiful. There's great disability rep so far. She is the one who wrote, Amanda LeDuc, I think is how you say her name. She wrote Disfigured on Fairy Tales, Disability, and Making Space. So she wrote that book, which I'd seen everywhere, but I haven't read. So I was like, well, I hope her book has disability rep, and it definitely does. Our woman in this has cerebral palsy, I believe. And I guess I should say, I'm not 100% sure that the woman in the storyline she might be different from the woman in the prologue. I should mention that. I'm not exactly sure, but I think they're the same. But yeah, this is just really, really good. I'm excited about this. So I'm going to go read, and I'll probably update you when I have more to say. Hello, I'm here with an update on The Centaur's Wife. I am 78 pages in, so I'm almost a third of the way, and I'm really enjoying it. It's very strange. I can't decide if it's a little too mystical for me, because I will say that at times I'm having a hard time figuring out what is real, what is not. There's lots of stories and fairy tales that are seemingly connected to things that are happening in the real life, but I can't tell how real is everything. So I'm not 100% sure on that aspect, but I will say that I'm really enjoying it so far. The writing is very easy, very simple, but beautiful as well. And I feel like our main character, I'm really liking her point of view and kind of reading from it. I do think you are being held at a distance from her, so I don't feel like I'm in her head and I know her every secret and stuff. I feel like I know some things about her, and I'm hoping that we kind of get to know more. We have gotten some more centaurs, which I don't want to tell you much about because I don't want to spoil it, but that is something that will happen in the story. So yeah, I'm liking it. I'm really liking this sort of fantasy and post-apocalyptic mixture. It's very strange. It kind of reminds me of Jeff Vandermeer, Born by him. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm going to keep working on it. I've been going pretty slow. I think it's the 24th of March right now. I've been going slow because I've been sucked back into watching Outlander. I had last left off on season 4, and I'm trying to watch the seasons to help catch me back up to book, I think 8 is, or 7. So the last one I read was Echo in the Bone, which I think is book 7. I'm going to reread that one because as I've been thinking about what happens, I realized I remember a teeny bit about A Breath of Snow and Ashes, and I don't remember actually anything that happens in An Echo in the Bone. So I was like, I can read that one and it'll be like having another Outlander book to read. So I'm planning to reread it. I might listen to it on audiobook. Otherwise, I'll just get it from the library and read it physically. But I want to catch up with this series because Diana Gabaldon is going to be releasing the final book in the next couple of years. She was kind of vague about her actual like timeline, which I get it. These books are big. They take a lot of research. She has like a whole team to help her keep track of like details so she doesn't like mess anything up from like what she's mentioned before and what people look like and the historical stuff. So there is a lot going on in these books. So I've been sucked back in. I'm currently on season 5. I'm like halfway through. I was really slow going through like the first half of season 4. I feel like I just needed time to like get back into it all. And then now I can't stop watching it. I'm like watching it while I wash the dishes. I'm watching it while I feed the bunnies. I'm watching it on walks. I'm watching it when I eat. I'm just like watching it all the time. And I've watched like a season and a half within the past like week, which is unusual for me, but I'm really enjoying it. I think there are 6 seasons on Netflix, and I think that'll get me caught up. If not, I might need to get the next season from the library to be able to watch that one. But I'm gonna just watch up to An Echo in the Bone, and then I'll read from there to finish out the series. So that's what I've been doing with a lot of my time. I've not been doing as much reading, but I feel like I'm getting into this. I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to see where this goes because I really have no idea. Like, we have 2 crazy things going on. We have like centaurs on a mountain and a meteor apocalypse, and I don't know where it's gonna go from there. So I'm enjoying myself a lot. I'll check back in with you when I have some more updates. Hello, I am here with an update that I am almost finished with The Centaur's Wife. I'm super close to finishing it, and I needed to bring a book back to the library because it's due today. So I thought I'd come finish. I think I have like 45 pages or so, and it's reading very quickly because the chapters have gotten a lot shorter towards the end. So I'm reading it super quickly, and I think I'll be able to finish it fast. I brought another book for another vlog, which I can't tell you about in this vlog because it's going to come up later. But I brought another book to read when I finish this one, and I have a couple hours, so I'll probably just read a little bit. I brought a nice coffee and browse the shelves a little bit. I am looking for An Echo in the Bone by Diana Gabaldon, rest of the show. So that's kind of my plan. I don't know what else I'll find browsing around. We'll see. Maybe I'll find something fun and show you after I'm done, or maybe I won't find anything and I won't update you on what I got. But yeah, I'm just gonna have like a chill afternoon, do some reading, get some books finished. Yeah. Hello, I'm here with an update. I have a few things to update you about. So, audiobooks. I don't think I ever updated this vlog and said that I read or listened to the book Bowling Alone. This is a nonfiction book written in 2000 all about like American individualism and how we've kind of gone down this path of like being so individualized and so separated from our communities and the ways that it might harm us. And the end of the book talks about like how can we maybe get back to a time when we're a little bit more connected to other people. And I really enjoyed this book. I found it so fascinating. I love things about sociology and people and how they like interact and work together. And this one was really good. I would highly recommend it on audio because I think reading it would feel extremely dry. The audiobook narrator was not the best, but I got used to it after a while, and I was able to listen to it on like a good 1.75 speed and still kind of hear everything that I needed to. And I think that there was a lot of like researcher talk. Like he'd be like, okay, this is what we found out, and this is how we know it's not attributed to this reason or this reason or this reason. So like he's really like laying out his work, which I do appreciate because you know he's not just leaping to conclusions, but as a reading experience, it could get a little bit dry at times with that. But I do think it was a really important read because even though it was written like 25 years ago, I feel like things have only gotten worse with how often we are on our phones and social media and parasocial relationships and things like that. I feel like things have only gotten worse. Politics dividing people. So I feel like this rampant individualism that the United States sort of has as part of our culture is only getting worse unless we like take steps to change that. And so I really enjoyed reading it, and I think it kind of gave me some thoughts about how I might want to try to implement changes to make my life a more community-centered life rather than like an individual, like my household kind of life. So that was really good. Now I'm listening to Anywhere You Run. I think it's called Anywhere You Run by Wanda M. Morris. This is a thriller set in Jim Crow era South where these two sisters, Violet and Marigold, are sort of each stuck in trouble of their own, and it's how they are trying to get out of it. It's already very intense. I'm about 30%, 35% of the way through it, and I'm really enjoying it. I feel like it really got me into the characters. I care about the characters. I care about their situations that are tough, and I want them to come out of it safe, but you are reminded of how awful and terrifying it would have been to have been Black at that time in the United States, especially in the southern states. Yeah, it's so intense. I listen to it most of the time before bed, which kind of, sometimes I have a hard time stopping, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad I picked it up because I've had it out on audiobook for like weeks and I just kept putting it off, and I'm so glad I finally started listening to it. And then for my physical book, I decided to pick up People We Meet on Vacation. I think this will be a high number of points for us in Realmathon. I'm pretty sure we're still in 3rd or 4th place because we know that the Ravens are in 2nd place based on our hint that we got this week. And I don't think we jumped to 1st place. I think that would be a big leap because I feel like our chat has slowed down quite a bit, and I haven't seen as many people putting through the I submitted this many books. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe we've kind of resigned ourselves to 3rd place a little bit and we aren't pushing. So I'm kind of thinking we're still in 3rd place. We don't know, and we don't have any idea who's in 1st. We think the Monarchs, but the Stingers we haven't heard anything about either. So who knows? And Cassidy did say it's very close, or it was last week. So, maybe there's a chance. I'm definitely reading still a lot of things. I'm going to try to get my audiobook done, this one done, and then I have another graphic novel to read. So I'm hoping to get at least 3 more things read for this readathon before the end of the month. It's the 25th today, so I have less than a week, about 5 days of reading left. So we'll see how I do it, but I'm still hoping for us. I think we can do it. We're the biggest team, right? We can do it. So this book I started, And I got about 10 pages in, and I have to say I have a few petty gripes with it, which is hard. This is my first Emily Henry. So I will say my expectations are probably a little higher than they should be. I know this is not a lot of people's favorites, but this is one I found in a little free library. So I wanted to read this one because I own it. And so there's been like a couple things in the writing that have bothered me. And I know with a romance novel, it's not that big of a deal, but it does bug me. So like she was talking about like old men kind of like hitting on her at like bars, and she said gray-haired men in wedding rings. And I was like, is that, I would say gray-haired men with wedding rings, not in wedding rings. That doesn't, like, yes, we would say gray-haired men in a suit or in a t-shirt and jeans or in swim trunks. But I feel like with a ring, we don't say we're in a ring. We say we have a ring on, or we're wearing a ring, or with a ring. So that bothered me. And then there was another point at which, I don't know why I'm sharing my petty gripes with you. I hope you find this interesting. There was another one where she like gets a margarita, and as like the bartender is like flinging it down the bar towards her, it says, "A ping of excited thirst hits the back of my throat as I catch it." And I was like, a ping of excited thirst hits the back of your throat. And I have never felt that feeling in my life. I read it and I was like, what? I don't understand. Other than that, the writing's been fine. I hate it. I sometimes do this with romance because I think they try to feel both casual but also like literary sometimes at the same time. And if you can't do that, then it's really rough. So I'm like, I'm not hating it. Obviously, those are like such small things. But I will say it's like bringing my expectations like way down. I'm like, oh, am I gonna hate this? Like, is the writing not gonna work for me? Because I thought Emily Henry's writing was gonna work for me, and it would maybe be like the stories that wouldn't work or the romance that wouldn't work. But I thought the way that people talked about her, that the writing would be the thing that wouldn't bother me. And now the writing is bothering me. So I'm like, I really hope I like the romance, or that the writing like gets better. I don't know. Those two things just felt really awkward when I was reading it, and I read it like 3 times. Like, this doesn't feel right. Like, something feels off. Like, I don't know. A ping of excited thirst, it hit the back of my throat. Like, I don't know what that would even feel like. So, we'll see. I'll keep reading. And even if I hated this one, I'm not going to write off Emily Henry. I'll still probably pick up Beach Read because I'm really intrigued by the premise of that one. So I'm not like writing her off forever, but it does make me a little bit worried that 10 pages in, I'm already finding like gripes with it. So I'm going to read for a little bit, and I'll check back in with you when something interesting happens. Hello, I'm back with another update on People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I am 150 pages through this, and I'm liking it more. I'm being less grumpy about the writing. In fact, I haven't noticed as many things that have bugged me about the writing. I think while I was like getting dropped in and trying to like figure out the characters and everything, I was so focused on the writing that those things were just standing out to me a lot. But I will say, I think this book is struggling from a structure point of view. So this story is about Poppy and Alex, 2 friends who have gone on these summer vacations together for like 12 years or so since they met. And 2 years previously to where the present day is in this story, something happened and they stopped talking. Some kind of incident or fight meant they weren't talking, and she's kind of like going to try to get him to come on like one more vacation to see if they can't like rekindle this friendship that they had. though she kind of wants it to be more than just a friendship, but she hasn't like admitted it to herself yet. So what I'm struggling with this is the way that it's structured, because we have the story of this summer and then it keeps flashing back to previous summers, and so we'll have like a couple chapters set in the present day where they're like doing this trip together, and then it'll flash back towards a previous one starting with like number 12, which is like the first time they met, and then it keeps like moving forward. So I just had vacation number, or like 8 years ago, the vacation that took place 8 years ago, and I think that I would have liked this better if we could have started with the first time they met, and then we got told they're kind of becoming friendship through the years, seeing all these little vacations. You could make them super short. I don't think they need to be quite as long as they are, because I do think this book is a little bloated page-wise. We would see them falling in love. We would get to that breakup, whatever happens, and then we could flash forward 2 years to them trying to rekindle a friendship. And because what's happening right now is we're seeing them as people that don't really know each other, and as awkward people that have been sort of broken up, not friends for 2 years, being awkward together on this vacation. And so this vacation is moving super slowly, and it's awkward. And then we're seeing them in the past where they're awkward, starting to become friends. She kind of likes him, but she won't admit it to herself. And it's just like this, like we're getting all this awkward all at the same time. And I think there would be so much more emotional impact if we could see them becoming these strong friends. We get to this point where where they're like, we're not going to speak to each other, because we don't even know what that is at this point. And that's going to be, I'm pretty sure that's going to be like the third act breakup, but they're already sort of back together trying to give it a try. So it's not going to have the same emotional impact as a breakup. So I think we needed all the previous summers, watch them fall in love, sort of, even though they're not admitting it to themselves, watch them become these really strong friends, see them break up, and then go to this summer. That would be like the last half of the book, would be like, we're going to try to make this work. And you would be on the edge of your seat because you would know what's wrong. And then you would be able to watch them be so awkward together, but you just spent time watching them become best friends. So it would just have such more emotional impact, because where I am at, they're still like, okay, awkward friends. Like, they're not like great friends right now. They're awkward friends. And so when we're seeing them be awkward in the present day, it doesn't have that emotional impact of, oh my gosh, they used to be like best friends. Now they're not. They're struggling to make it work. Everything is so awkward between them. That would have such a more emotional impact than it's having for me right now. Right now, I'm feeling very bleh about them as a couple. I don't feel any chemistry. I barely even understand why they're friends. And so that's a little frustrating. I'm not frustrated enough to not keep reading, because I do think that we will get there in the end. It's just like I said, that big breakup is going to be the third act breakup, and then it's going to be like trying to mend it in like the last 60 pages or whatever, and I don't like that structure, and I wish it was a little bit different. So I'm going to keep reading, but those are the issues that I'm sort of struggling with right now. Hello, I'm here to wrap up Realmathon. I finished my final book, and I gave it like a 3 stars. I think it was enjoyable, but all my opinions about the structure still stand. I think the structure stood in the way of this being a better story than it was. I also thought it was a little long. We did not need 12 summers of vacation for us to get to know them. I thought that was a little bit like I don't know, it just went on too long. And so I just think it was okay. I definitely will be picking up Emily Henry again. I'm probably going to pick up Beach Read before I make, like, a big decision on her, because I know that's one that's almost universally loved. And I hope that I'll like it better than I did this one. Not that this one was bad. I had to force myself through it a little bit. Definitely the last half read a lot better than the first half. Though I will say that the third act breakup that always happens, like, it was basically exactly what I thought. Whatever happened on that fateful summer was the third act breakup that kind of carried into the future. And, you know, it's like, it wasn't hard to see coming. And I don't know, it just didn't hit. I didn't get the, like, romance, like, happy, cutesy feelings that I normally do from reading a romance book that I love. So that was my final physical book. I also finished Anywhere You Can on audio, and I enjoyed this overall. I thought that the ending was really interesting. I don't think it ever was a book I was, like, obsessed with, so I gave it a solid 4 stars. I thought it was a good listen. I liked the historical setting that it was a part of. It was really interesting, kind of reading from that perspective of Black women in Jim Crow era South, and when they get into situations that are not easy for them to get out of and to know how to navigate without potentially losing their lives. And I liked a lot of the side characters that we got to know in this story. It had almost like a cozy small town feel at some points, and it was just a really interesting read. So this is it for the reading, but I do want to give you an update that we know that the Ravens are still in second place as of the end of Realmathon, but there's still time for people to submit books, or if they were very close to finishing a book, to finish it and then submit it. My thinking is that we're in third place still, maybe fourth if whoever was in last, like, really pushed it at the end and got above us. But there is a chance that we made it up to the top. I know a lot of people read a ton. Like, some people read, like, 30 plus books in March, which was amazing. And so, you know, who knows. But I will come back and update you once I know if we've won. And we'll see if the Cheyenne losing streak for Readathons continues. Because, as I've said, I forget if I said it in this vlog, maybe it was in last month, I have never been on the winning team of a competitive readathon, and I have done so many. I do like 4 or 5 a year, and I've never been on a winning team. And, you know, I hate to say that there's a Cheyenne curse, but maybe. So if you're going to participate in Escape the Readathon in May, maybe look for what team I'm on and choose any other team. But, you know, maybe we'll break the curse with this one. I don't think so, though. Okay, I'll be back to update you with the final stats and see if the Stags ended up winning. Hello, I'm back because we got the results of Realmathon, and the curse is still very much in effect. We came in third place, just like I thought. There was quite a gap, actually, between third place and second place. There was not a huge gap between third place and last place, so we, you know, barely kept our head above water there. But yes, so I have still never won a readathon, but Mel, who is one of the team captains, she won her 3rd Realmathon in a row, so maybe I should be on Mel's team next year. At least I could bring her down, even if she didn't bring me up, you know? So, I had a fabulous time in Realmathon. I find it so motivating and silly and fun to be a part of these competitive readathons, and I'm very much looking forward to Escape the Readathon, which will be happening in May, and that's with Lexi. I can't remember her channel name, but I'm going to try to remember to link it down at the bottom. So if one of my friends are looking for a chaotic readathon before Wonderthon in June, Escape the Readathon is super, super fun. I love it. It's a very, very fun competitive readathon. So I had a great time reading all these books. I got a lot of books off my shelves this month. Not a ton of like all-time favorites, but definitely a lot that I have been meaning to get to and finally can say that I've read them. And thank you for sticking around. If you've been here all this time, I'd love to know if you are planning to participate in any readathons coming up in the next few months. Let me know which ones you are participating in, or if you think you might want to participate in a readathon, let me know about that as well, if you're not sure about them. I think they're super fun. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.